America, and women who spend too much time and money on it are considered to be vain and foolish at best, and ostentatious and narcissistic at worst. Despite this, women worldwide still spend $426 billion each year on beauty products. That's more than the average woman spends on car payments. And if the men out there are shaking their heads, don't. It's kind of your fault. Research from the University of Texas at Austin shows that facial attractiveness is the #1 feature men look for in a partner. It ranks above agreeableness, conscientiousness, and even kindness. So this means that the question is not, do we care about beauty? Because clearly we do. The question becomes, why? Is it mere instinct, or is it cultural? And if it's cultural, does this reflect a more or less advanced society? So in the spirit of TED, let's play a game. I want for all of you to shout out whether the following signs are culture or instinct. So symmetry. Is symmetry a cultural or instinctive sign of beauty? You're correct, it is instinctive. So studies have shown that people with greater facial symmetry tend to have higher mental performance on IQ tests. In addition, facial symmetry may also be an indicator that people are less accident prone, as they have not suffered any significant facial injuries. Height. So shout out, do you think it's culture or instinct? Yes, for both men and for women, it is definitely culture. So in Western societies, women across the board prefer men who are equal or greater to them in terms of height. But worldwide, this doesn't seem to matter at all. And actually, even though I tend to be jealous of 6-foot-tall supermodels, it's actually my 5-foot-tall friends that I should be the most jealous of. It turns out that women whose heights are 0.7 to 1.7 standard deviations below the mean in terms of height get married more often and have higher reproductive potential and success. Thinness. So do we think that thinness is culture or instinct? It's actually a little of both. So worldwide, people actually prefer a figure that you and I would consider to be on the plump side. But whenever men are shown pictures of women of varied sizes, when men are hungry, they actually tend to prefer the images of the women who are a little more plump. And when men are, this is what they're using your tax dollars for. This is the type of research. And whenever men are fed, they actually prefer the pictures of the thinner women. So it's a little bit of both. Long legs. Culture, instinct. It's actually culture. There's a few leg men out there, I see, but actually, now this one is actually culture. Worldwide, across the board, most people actually prefer women who are of mid-sized leg height, which is good for women like me because I'm built a little like a fire hydrant. Shiny hair, culture or instinct? Shiny hair is actually instinct. So actually, hair tends to be indicative of your nutritional status for the past 2 to 3 years, depending on your hair's length. Malnutrition, especially of the B vitamins, tends to make hair fall out and also be dry and brittle. So shiny hair actually is indicative of a higher reproductive potential. Lastly, clear skin. Do we think that this is culture or instinct? Remember who you're talking to. It is instinct. So actually, even though a skin tone itself tends to be based upon culture, for instance, in Asian societies, people tend to prefer pale skin, whereas in Western culture, people tend to prefer more tan skin. Across the board, people tend to prefer a healthy glow to the skin, which is indicative of greater blood flow, which is indicative of greater cardiac output and therefore cardiovascular health. In addition, people with warmer skin tones, such as those with yellow or orangish undertones, may actually have greater antioxidant carotenoid content within their skin, and therefore also have greater skin health and health overall. Now here's a question for you. Which of these two faces do you think is more beautiful? The one on the left or the one on the right? Men do love Jessica Alba, but the reason for this may be different than what you would actually think. So a study from the University of Toronto found that the face that we find to be the most beautiful is actually the average of the face that we are subjected to the most. Given the fact that men are most commonly subjected to faces in advertising with small chins, small noses, and large, wide-set eyes, it's no wonder that these are the images that men tend to select as the most attractive overall. So one thing that's a little taboo to talk about is teenage beauty. It's something, in our society where we like to hear about the late bloomer. But in fact, teenage beauty is actually one time in which that beauty is almost always indicative of health. For instance, children's height at age 13 is actually positively correlated with IQ. In addition, children who are beautiful not only have more advantages, but they will also develop more advantageous characteristics. This is what is known in anthropology as what is called the beautiful is good effect. That is, parents and teachers will anticipate the children who are more facially symmetrical and beautiful will be more well-behaved, intelligent, and popular, and the children and adolescents will grow to develop these traits. Interestingly enough, many of the same traits that we send our children to college in order to cultivate, such as social skills and also greater starting positions, higher salaries, and more job promotions, are also correlated with physical attractiveness. So it seems that this doesn't necessarily mean that we should stop saving for children's college funds and give them plastic surgery instead. But it does mean whenever our children and teenagers come to us with concerns about the way that they look, that perhaps we should listen a little more and do something like give them respectable yet attractive hairstyles and allow our girls to use light-handed but respectable use of cosmetics. Now, whenever it comes to aging, I have good and bad news for the women in the audience. The good news for women in the audience is that attractiveness does not decrease with age, despite our belief. On a 1 to 10 scale from the age of 20 to 60, women generally will maintain the same level of attractiveness, despite what they may feel otherwise. This is not true, however, for women who rank in the top 10% of attractiveness during their 20s and 30s. Now, the bad news for women in aging is dating. Now, according to a study from OkCupid of over 200,000 users, the 48-year-old male will have twice the dating pool of a 48-year-old woman. 48-year-old men most commonly search for dating partners who are aged 30 to 50, whereas women who are 48 years old only will search for partners who are 45 to 55. That's 20 years versus 10 years. The interesting part about this, however, is that a comprehensive study across 37 countries found that men most commonly marry women who are just 2.5 years younger than them. And a study from the University of Vienna found that marriages last longest whenever the male partner is only 2 to 6 years older than his female counterpart. So the fact that men are attracted to, searching for, and dating women who are up to 20 years their junior, or they're most compatible with women who are just 2 to 6 years their junior, suggests that there's a powerful disparity between attraction and compatibility. It seems that we have not evolved to have 50-year marriages, but to procreate. In relationships, this is one area in which it may also be disadvantageous in order to be attractive. Again, there is what is known as the beautiful is good effect. Whenever we first meet someone, we get to know them on a superficial level. If we get to know someone who we perceive to be of equal or greater attractiveness than us, we will believe that they are generally smarter and kinder and more well-versed than they actually are. And whenever we get to know them on a more deeper level, these walls tend to come crashing down. So in fact, attractiveness may not be good for dating and relationships after all. So the issue here is that beauty may not, in fact, be one of the most important things. Beauty is definitely not the most important thing. After all, beauty does not denote success in relationships. Beauty also does not indicate higher reproductive potential given our current mix of culture and instinct when defining beauty. But when defined properly, we can cultivate our cultural and instinctual beliefs of beauty in order to lead greater lives in terms of both social and financial rewards, particularly when these are started in youth. So therefore, beauty can be used to our advantage, but only if it's done so in an intelligent way. Thank you.